Welcome to episode 4 of the Joya Life Podcast, where we're joined today by Audrey Smith from Flourish HR, that's focused on mental health and well-being in the workplace. And she actually works as a consultant to lots of other companies. And so we get the benefit of all of that knowledge, and we'll ask lots of deep questions and understand really what makes for a good work-life balance, both from the employer's side and the employee's side. So that's what we've got to look forward to today, and let's get straight into it.
Great.
I guess the main point of discussion is, what is work-life balance? Does it exist? How do we get better at it?
I think that it's becoming more of a thing. Okay. I believe that back in the days where probably my parents were working for corporates, things like that, there wasn't that sense of well-being. There wasn't a sense of work-life balance. You would work your long hours. You would be expected to put in a lot of extra hours, go on overseas trips, and just kind of leave your family behind. And that.
Yeah. So these days, there's very much a sense that
well-being is a very important aspect and not just a nice to have.
Is it an aspect of for work though? Is it employers pushing this, or is this individuals?
I think it's a combination. I think there's a demand from generationally, the generation that are kind of dominating the workforce are much more saying, okay, well, I want to work in this particular job, but I want to make sure I've got time to do that yoga class, and I want to make sure I've got time to see my friends, or to go shopping, or to go for that doctor's appointment, and I don't want to have to take time off for that. So I want to know that there's going to be a sense of well-being in the way that I work. And so it is coming, I think, from the employees, but I also think it's coming by that demand. I think that workplaces and HR departments are realising that it's not just a nice to have, and it's something that they need, because it's also about compliance. It's also about making sure.
About compliance?
Well, it's making sure that psychological injuries are not occurring. Because if you can't say that you've done something to try to ensure that people's well-being is taken care of. It's not just about holding a morning tea every 6 months to say, hey, we're great, woohoo. It's actually about trying to let people live a lifestyle, because we spend so much time at work. Work is such an integral part of our day, and so if a workplace doesn't provide a place where people feel safe, where there's psychological safety, where the risks are mitigated, not just about whether they're going to trip over that cord on the floor, but are they going to be in a psychologically safe workplace?
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about, what do you mean by psychologically safe?
So where people feel that they're in a place that they can be heard and understood, that they can raise, their points of view if they don't agree with something, where they are free from an environment where there's bullying or harassment, or that they're not going to have to worry about their colleague hitting on them in the workplace and, harassing them in some kind of a way, where if they've got personal things going on in their family, that they're not going to be judged for that. That if they need to take care of an older person in their life, if they're experiencing family and domestic violence, that they're not ashamed to have to put their hand up and say, hey, I need some time to be able to deal with that. And obviously, the workplace has shifted. There's been a lot more additional, family and domestic violence leave, and there's been additional days that are accounted for, not just your standard 10-day sick leave.
Yeah.
And so I guess there's been a shift in considering the whole person and considering the things that we all bring to the workplace. So people are not just showing up to work all about what it is that they're going to do at work.
Yep.
People are coming in with the stress of elder parenting, or parenting children, or dealing with relationship issues or health issues. COVID has obviously changed the landscape, even though we've obviously come back from it all. Are we
mostly in the office back again now, or is it we're 50-50, or are we 60-40? Where are we now?
There's a lot of hybrid still. Yeah. However, there are a lot of larger organisations that are definitely saying we want you more in the workplace, and we feel as though that's the place where you need to be. However, there's also an understanding that people can be very productive at home, and there's no need to say, you need to come in the office because you can actually get a lot of work done and, without being distracted by others. However, there's the isolation factor, not being in the workplace, not having those water cooler chats and opportunities to get to know people. It's that getting to know people that also builds and maintains really great work relationships. Yeah. And those work relationships are really key in your overall well-being, because if you don't have those work relationships, that's where loneliness and isolation and mental health issues can.
And it's also the counter to that is obviously it's that sense of belonging. You want to feel like you belong to something bigger than yourself.
Absolutely.
Whether that's the company, your teammates, your family, whatever it is that you're doing. And so I guess if you're isolated and cut off, for me it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And my office ran continually through COVID, mainly because we found, all of us that were working here at the time found that it was better to come into the office and get out of the house.
Absolutely.
We're working in finance, we were allowed to do that. But also we just, especially I work with a lot of, I'm obviously grey-haired, experienced, but I work with a lot of young guys, and one of the ways they learn is by just simply listening to the kind of things that I say on the phone when I'm talking to clients, the kind of things that I say on the phone when I'm talking to bankers and other things, because you hear that. You can't get that from working remotely.
You can't get it to the same extent. I think that now that everybody's also spending time having meetings on Google Meet or Teams or Zoom, you can get to know someone to some extent, obviously with a screen in between. It's not the same, I would agree, but I think that it is sometimes a good enough. I think having a person at home, not interacting with anyone, and I guess before, when COVID hit us, we were not used to having all of these online meetings. Yeah. I think now that people are used to it, it's become a very commonplace. If I go to an event and I meet with people face to face, that's fantastic. If they say, let's catch up, and they're located, 30 minutes drive away from where I am, sometimes it's an easier option to say, hey, let's do a Google Meet or a Teams or a Zoom. And at least we can still continue that conversation and keep those kinds of opportunities alive. Whereas if it was based on needing to be at a certain place at a certain time, that might just delay that process and delay those opportunities and relationships that people can still form.
Yeah, and do you think that we've dropped the facade a little bit on the digital meetings? Because there was a lot of, in the beginning, the standard joke was you'd be all business up top,
party at the bottom.
Party at the bottom.
I'm still that. I really hope you haven't got my sneakers in the shot.
I'm used to dealing with people in homes.
Yes.
And for me, I find that it's a much, it's unrealistic to expect someone to not have a child or a dog walk in and go, oh, is that your child? And we'll wave and go, I can't help it. As soon as I see a child, I stick my tongue out. I don't know why, but you just kind of wave and say hello and have that kind of thing. But I work in a very kind of more informal setting. I mean, here I am in I don't know if you've got my shorts and t-shirt in here, but it is a very informal environment. But it is a very informal environment, and also when I'm talking to clients, they're usually in their homes, as opposed to them being kind of formalish business meetings. So I'm kind of a few layers removed from that. But what you're saying is it's still a bit more, business up top and party it.
Yeah, look, I think so. I think there's a time and a place. I think that if I know that I'm meeting with a business who I've never met before, my instinct will always be to put on the blazer. Right. And,
It's funny, when you came in today, you said, should I put the jacket on? I was like, no, don't put the jacket on.
Exactly. So I'm used to the blazer and I'm used to all of that, because I think that sometimes it gives me that perception that if I turn up with a blazer, that I'm in business and that I'm kind of professional, and that I've taken the time to put the effort in and all of that. However, I do think that what COVID and the hybrid way of working has really taught us is that people are individuals. People are human. Yeah. People have lives. And sometimes I think if if you go with the informality, that straight away also makes someone feel a little bit more comfortable. So the fact that I walked in and said, do I need the blazer? And he said, no, I'm just wearing the shorts and T-shirt. It actually instantly made me feel comfortable about the conversation we were going to have, that I didn't have to be anything too formal, and then I could just be myself. And so I think that there are, there's times and there's places for certain attire or for certain ways of communicating with other people.
Yeah.
Because we're
individuals,
we are.
I guess in the balance, though, is it more that employees are demanding work-life balance, or employers are going, we better give you some work-life balance, or we're introducing programs? Is it employers driving this or employees?
It's hard to definitively say that it's one or the other, because I think it really depends on the size of the employer and what their values are and what they're trying to achieve in terms of a workplace. I do think that it is coming from a new generation of people working who are expecting that work-life balance. And so I think that there's had to be a response to that. However, I do think that depending on the size of the organisation, a lot of startups and small businesses are actually recognising that the reason that they've decided to go small and to start something is because they want a different experience than the corporate. That's right. So, and with the flexibility and the ability to be able to work from a home office or work from a co-working space. And so because of that, then there are particular perks or things that are being offered to come and work with those small.
Tell me the perks. What are the perks?
So it might be have your birthday off. A day off for your birthday. Wow, there might be some, often larger and smaller based organisations are providing support for individuals and their immediate families by providing employee assistance program counselling. Okay. That's an area that I've got quite a lot of experience in, and I've done a lot for various different organisations, different industries, and the organisation pays for those individuals to get access and their immediate members. So let's just say you are an employee of X organisation and your husband is really struggling with a mental health issue or has some physical ailment that they're dealing with. Maybe they actually want to be the one to talk.
So I need to bring my husband in.
Yeah, perhaps they would just have a phone call or a digital session or an in-office experience as well. Yeah. And that it is because essentially if a person is going through personal issues or family issues, their level of productivity, their level of engagement, their retention levels are all going to be impacted by all of this. Everybody shows up in a particular way. There's the role that you have to do, but there's all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes and even just in the getting to work. Do I have to travel 2 hours to get to work? Or, do I catch the train? Do I catch the ferry?
It's one of the biggest stresses is
do
commuting.
I walk? It might be that as part of a wellbeing initiative, people are being encouraged to maybe get off a bus a stop earlier or walk a little bit of the way to work, because then that's a way that you're getting your steps in. It might be that they're doing things like step challenges where they're saying, okay, we're going to all, count our steps for a particular charity, and there might be charity days, and there's lots of different things that are being done that are, I guess, recognising, again, the human experience, that people are people and people come with their own histories, experiences, family dynamics. There's no one stock standard. This is a family. It's, a mother and a father and 2 kids, or it's, lots of, because Australia is so multicultural, there are lots of, multi-generational families that are living under the one roof. Yep. So you can't just make the assumption that, a certain way of working is going to work for everybody, but you also can't make an assumption that everybody is going to show up ready to be super productive, because there's other things that are going on in people's lives. There's financial pressures. Yeah.
And that's, I run a small business here and so we're very kind of dependent on certain people. One of the guys, he's absolutely fantastic for showing up day in, day out, doesn't take sick days. But if I don't make him go on holiday, literally make him go on holiday, he'll just keep going and going and going until he can't.
Yes.
And then he'll be stressed out, and then all of a sudden he'll be taking 2 weeks leave starting tomorrow.
Yes.
Now, for a business, that is the worst thing that can happen.
Yes.
Because if we know he's going on holiday in November, we plan for that, we organise the workload, we share things out, and then he's had his break, and then he feels better when he comes back and everything's good. If he doesn't take that break, then I know what's going to happen. If he's not, it'll get to a certain point in the year when he's just had enough, and we'll suddenly lose him for a fortnight, and that hurts our business way more than anything else, really.
Yeah.
So for us, it's all about how do we make people. But I want to flip the conversation around a little bit and go, how can we as individuals, we're all individuals trying our own best, and obviously some of our viewers are employed in companies. What can they do to kind of give themselves the best chance of either feeling more balanced or being more? Is there a difference between feeling balanced and being balanced, work-life balance?
That's an interesting one. I haven't been asked that one before. I'd say that balance is something that I guess is an outcome that you achieve to a certain extent without it being a scorecard or anything like that. But it's just essentially if you make time for various, almost if you think about, a wheel, and you go and funny, I should bring up a wheel. And you say, okay, well, how much time, if you do a bit of an audit of your time, how much time am I spending on relationships? How much time am I spending on, my physical health? How much time am I spending on my mental health? Yeah. How much time am I spending with exercise? All those kinds of relationships, that kind of thing. And I guess, now I've forgotten what the question was, but essentially...
But is it what we feel? For example, if 50% of my time's at work and 50% of my waking hours is not at work, is that a balance? Or is it just about, well, if I'm doing all the other stuff, we don't really need to count the hours because I feel like it's working for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I work a lot of hours, but I feel like my life is in balance because I, play football twice a week. I go dragon boating twice a week. Yeah. I cycle to and from work to keep fit and healthy.
Absolutely.
I spend time with my partner. I spend time with my grandson. I spend time with my sons. And so if I feel like I'm doing all of those things, and by the way, I've got holidays planned. We were planning out what are we doing in 2028? Seriously, wow. This is the conversation we were having yesterday. What are we going to do in 2028? Because I'm going to turn 60 that year. It's like, well, we're not sure yet, but we've got 26 and 27, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
But when you've got all of those things done, then the amount of time at work is not as relevant because it's more about, well, there's plenty of other stuff going on, so I don't feel like
provided you're giving yourself enough rest time and provided you're feeling like you're
hitting my sleep scores.
Yeah, you're even keeled in terms of if you find yourself snapping at your partner or, being a little bit less patient with people that you're working with, it could be a little bit of a warning sign that maybe something's a little out of kilter and maybe you need to do a little bit of a self-audit around, well, what's changed here? We
don't know each other very well, but if I was snapping at anyone, something's wrong.
Yeah.
I stayed in a relationship for 34 years where there was a lot of stress and tension coming the other way. And one of the reasons we kept going as long as we did is because of the fact that it's like, oh, well, it's just, it's fine. It'll
Yeah.
There's no point in getting worked up about it because it's just, how she is, or so.
But imagine coming to work with all of that going on, and it is very stressful.
Yeah.
And you are feeling really unsure about the state of the relationship, or you're just feeling very tense because maybe you're on eggshells in your own home.
Yeah.
Imagine then fronting up to work and you've got a team under you that is all demanding things of you. You've got deadlines, you've got, financial pressures around, needing to hit KPIs and things like that. It might work okay for a short while.
Yeah.
But eventually it will catch up and people will start to see a bit of a different you. You might not see it in yourself. It might be somebody that works closely with you that starts to say, hang on a minute, like, Max, you just don't seem to be yourself. And it's a bit of that, like, are you okay day kind of conversation.
Well, although in my case, it kind of went the other way, is after the relationship, I finished the relationship and kind of said, okay, I'm going to start again. It was then after that, people sort of said, oh, you seem sort of lighter, you seem happier. And it wasn't that I seemed unhappy, because I genuinely just kind of get on with things, and what happened this morning is finished, it's done. But most people don't. For most people, you're going to carry, you have an argument over breakfast.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be in, it's going to be spinning in your head somewhere.
And when those situations start to spill into the workplace, and you've had that fight and you've gone to work, and then the partner decides to call you to kind of have it out again or to follow it up, and you're trying to run a business, so you're trying to run a team, it can be really distracting and really difficult to kind of focus. And so...
Do you need to focus, though, or do you just need someone at work you can just chat to? It's like, it's the whole work buddy, work friends.
Yeah.
A lot of us have got work friends that we tell everything. They know everything about us.
Yeah. And I think it's important to have that.
We rarely see them outside of the workplace, which is kind of weird.
Yes. No, I think if you have that significant person in the workplace, your work bestie or whatever you want to call it, or a couple of people.
Work wife, I've heard them called before as well. Work husband,
all of that. I think that's really great. You've just got to make sure that you're on the same page at times. I don't mean in terms of how you view the dynamic or anything like that. I mean more so that sometimes what happens is that work bestie or work wife or husband ends up going into a bit of a negative place in the workplace and takes you along for the ride. And then that can affect the way you are navigating work, how you're interacting with your colleagues, what you think about your boss, particularly if you share the same boss. And so sometimes those dynamics can actually have a detrimental impact on the culture of the workplace, which is where people like myself in an HR kind of space would be going, oh gosh, maybe.
Are there some people that are just kind of, the Debbie Downers that just are not great in the workplace because of that reason?
Yes, absolutely. Because they get to a point where they're maybe dissatisfied, maybe the role that they went into. I had somebody the other day on the phone, actually. The role that they went into was not the role that they thought it was going to be. And they find themselves in a situation where they have a boss who has a different perception of what the project is meant to look like.
Yeah.
And starts reacting or communicating in a way that is almost throwing that person under the bus and making the person feel responsible for maybe things that haven't occurred, or that the things, goalposts keep shifting. So one week you might go into a one-to-one and that person, that manager is saying, oh, this is what I want you to do. They go and do it. Then something doesn't work out and the client's saying, oh, what's going on here? And then they throw the underling, if you want to call them that, under the bus. And then the person starts feeling like, well, this wasn't what I signed up for. I don't actually really know what the priorities is.
What can we do about that? I mean, if you're the individual in that situation, I mean, you've obviously spoken to that individual, but how did they get access to you, and or what could we do if find ourselves in that situation?
Yeah, so getting access because they were a recipient of the Employee Assistance Program from their organisation. And I guess what they can do is they can talk to a person that's independent, like myself, who's not in their workplace, who doesn't have the same bias and kind of understanding of the people involved, has never met the people involved, but can look at it from an objective point of view and help that person with strategies as to how they can cope with that situation, help them to discuss different communication options, figure out whether staying is still an option. In a lot of cases, when someone feels so disappointed with the way that things have been in the role, or the way that they don't see their boss changing and they don't see those dynamics shifting, they have to think to themselves, well, is this really where I want to be? And they've talked to their work bestie or husband or wife, and they've also had a similar experience. So they're sharing that experience, but then they're also saying, oh, I'm going to leave. Oh, yeah, I think I think I'll leave too. And so that can obviously be really hard for an organisation to suddenly get a domino effect of people leaving. However, sometimes that's the data or the info that they need to get to see, okay, what's not working? Why are people leaving? What's the common denominator here?
Yeah, but and look, as someone who's I've worked in big corporate before myself, but I'm an employer now, and I feel it can be such a waste of talent when you've got someone in who's got so much potential, and then it gets spoiled by that. Let's call it a dickhead boss, but the reality is that person probably got over promoted or put into a situation where they weren't used to managing things and not, maybe they didn't have the skills and experiences what to do. And so as someone who's an employer, I'm looking at that going, I wish there was a way to kind of capture that information, because you want to know, that, okay, there's an issue here. Let's figure out what the issue here is, and is it a lack of training? Is the manager the wrong person in that role? Or what's the situation? It just reminds me.
Engagement survey, maybe.
Yeah,
pulse surveys.
Do you know what? I think sometimes you just need to go around and talk to people a lot more. Yes. And I think the informal networks as well. I love it when companies have mentors, where there's somebody that you can talk to that's not your boss, that's not too dissimilar level to your boss, and they can filter word back to wherever it needs to go, or try and help you navigate that sort of space yourself. But I do remember there's one instance in particular where I was in a large company, and I'd taken a magnificent young lady who worked as a sales rep in the field, came into the office for a first time, and I'm a big believer in helping people reach whatever potential they've got. And so I started off going, okay, let's look at all the things that we think we can do. Here's the big 3 projects. Let's start working on them together, but let's make one of them like your project so that you can run it. Right. I'm in charge, but you're running it. Yeah. And then gradually realize that she was so good at that then, okay, well, actually, why don't you do these other 3 as well? And why don't we introduce some others? Before you know it, she's running like 9-10 projects at the same time, and absolutely just killing it, just phenomenal talent. As a result of that, she got promoted and then got to work with someone else in a bigger category. Right. And he had the view that he's responsible, and therefore she needs to do the work that he needs her to do to get the work done. So suddenly she's producing PowerPoints and looking up data and doing a lot of stuff that's not really adding value. And as soon as it's anything where we're now running a meeting, well, I'll be running the meeting, and don't worry, I'll tell you about it when I come back, or can you be here and take minutes, kind of thing.
Gatekeeping behavior.
And she's like going, I got promoted and I feel like I've gone down a step. What can I do? And I did go and talk to the guy, and unfortunately he was not very receptive. He believed he was doing all the right things. Yes. And we ended up having to
move him on?
No, see, I didn't have the capacity to move him on.
Okay.
I was more interested in her. So what I got her doing was doing some other stuff for me on the side.
Okay.
It's like moonlighting.
Yeah.
She wanted to work, and she wasn't being allowed to do the stuff. So it's like, can you let's work on some of this stuff around the side. Eventually she got moved around, and she's done incredibly well for herself. And was always going to, with or without someone like me getting involved. But I just feel like it was a great part of the journey. But she could have left, and she did talk about leaving. Yeah. She got some very nice offers at the time, and she's gone, what should I do? It's like, well, maybe the options are that you leave, you go to a new organisation and whatever, or the other option is you bide your time for another 6 months or so, because we know in that time you'll get to the level where you'll get promoted away from him, and you'll be in a position where you can get going again.
So I guess she was really fortunate to have an ally in you, or somebody that kind of really believed in her, because you probably turned that situation around, which could have resulted in.
Well, but yeah, exactly right. Potentially. So in
having that great boss, or that great,
I didn't like working in big companies because of all the politics involved, and I didn't want to be involved in politics. I just want to see good stuff done and good people succeed. That's what I want to happen. And unfortunately, a lot of companies, once you get to a certain level, It's all about whose back are you rubbing and what are you doing to make things look good. And you go, that's just an ego stroking thing. It's actually not really a thing that's going to benefit anyone. So I don't see why I should do it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then you're not probably not the right person for the job.
Yeah.
And
I think that people come in with a little bit more of a stronger mindset around what they're looking for. You know, does it fit the purpose of the kind of values and the kind of place that I want to work? You know, what are the perks? What are the wellbeing initiatives? What are the things that are being offered as part of the package? I read a post a while ago on social media that I then reposted, which was a bit of a pie graph again, and it was, what are the things people are actually looking for? Is it the free pizzas and those kinds of things that maybe previously had been seen to be like the perks, or is it being listened, understood, given opportunities, learning and development? It's not actually always about those financial elements that people actually want to stay. People often stay because of their boss, or they stay because they feel as though they can make a contribution
But I think that's one of the biggest things is that at the end of the day, very few people want to be bad employees. Most people want to do a good job.
Yes.
But they also want to be able to succeed at the level that they can get to. And for some people, they've got ambitions above what their capabilities are, but the only way to find that out is to keep going. Certainly I find in the corporate world that, well, even here in a small business, if you give people the opportunity to succeed, they normally take it. It's when you don't, that's when you're going to have problems.
Or if you don't understand where they're coming from and what other things are going on in their lives, which might be...
Yeah, which comes back to the work-life balance. And some of us don't have work-life balance, not because of a problem at work, but because we haven't thought about what the other side looks like. I'm just work because I want to get my career and I want to get the money sorted out and I want to do all these things to do that side of the puzzle, but they haven't thought about having relationships, being a part of a community, looking after their health, spending their downtime in a good way, planning good holidays. You haven't thought about those things, well, then you're going to feel like your life is not very balanced because it is all work.
Yeah.
Because that's the way you've set it up.
Yeah. I think that the link between physical and mental health is also really very important. And I think it's something that has become much more prevalent. In the past, maybe 10, 20 years ago, people probably would have laughed if you talked about mindfulness or meditation and being in the present moment and spending time in nature and all those kinds of things.
10, 20 years ago, people would have laughed at the whole idea of mindfulness and
absolutely. And
meditation.
I think now it's really embedded in what people are doing. So, in a presentation that I recently delivered to a corporate, we were talking about the coffee machine meditation, where you literally stand while you make your coffee in the morning, if you're doing a coffee machine, and you just spend that time just having a few kind of deep breaths and box breathing while you are actually in the process of making your morning coffee. So it doesn't become an impediment. Oh, well, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to meditate, or I don't have time to breathe, and it just sets you up for the day, and it gets you to kind of think about what's going on in the present, and it kind of almost takes you away from the stuff that might have been the stresses that got you to work.
As soon as you say that, I want to take a deep breath and think about my breathing, because the more focused you are about just the physical body, just being here, sitting here with you, chatting and learning about different ways that we can approach life. If our audience is individuals in the workplace, how do we get better and have a better work-life balance and feel more confident in our careers, more confident in what we're doing, and feel it is part of an overall part of our life and not just everything? What would your top 3 tips be? Go on.
Top 3 tips for work-life balance. It would be implementing exercise, making sure you're taking some time to do that every day, or a minimum of 3 times a week for at least half an hour to let the endorphins kick in. It would be, number 2 would be focus on relationships, your family relationships, your personal relationships. Where are the ways that you can connect with others? And 3 would be bringing in some kind of mindfulness, meditation, present moment stuff where you are in nature, you are being, I guess, a bit more introspective about what your life is doing, and making sure that you also ensure that that's an important element of what you're doing.
And thank you so much. And look, I guess one of the things that we're trying to do is help people set goals for more areas of their life through Joya, so that we're not just career or, nothing but health, or just all about the holidays. Because at the end of the day, our life is made up of a whole bunch of different things.
Definitely.
And
you can't just be getting ahead in the workplace, but then forgetting about having any kinds of relationships, or, or kind of sitting on the couch, kind of with your computer at night, and not also considering like the health element, and the interactive element that you need to have as well.
I also saw a brilliant study, by the way, as soon as you mentioned sitting on the couch, about the most successful study method of getting people to exercise, when they educated people, told them what they should be doing, everything else. The most successful one was when they were told, a group of people were in the experiment were told, we're going to do this over a period of time, but we want you to succeed. Now, what we want you to do is, next time you're watching the TV, obviously the study was a bit old, when an ad break comes on, just stand up. When the ad breaks finish, sit down. Although these days we get ads back in YouTube and everything else. Then next time, that's for a week. How many people succeeded? Everyone managed to do that. Yeah, I got reminded, I stood up. Okay, next time, stand up, and then just march up and down on the spot.
Yep.
That's it. And then next time an ad break comes on, just walk around the house. Just walk from one place to the other, back to your seat. You've got 5 minutes. And then it was walk to the door and back, and then it was walk out the door, down the road and back, but you've got to be back in 5 minutes. And then they gradually got these people to be running 5 kilometers.
Wow.
But their starting point was just standing up when the ad break came on. Absolutely. And once they succeeded at that, they succeeded at stepping on. Everything was just such a small progression that almost the entire group succeeded. Whereas another group, the control group, who were just told about the benefits of exercise, told that they should be running 5 kilometers 3 times a week or whatever it was, universal failure. Nobody managed to do that. So, You don't want people sitting on the sofa, but if you are, start by looking for a prompt to stand up and walk around, and then get used to doing that. Eventually, you'll move out to the door.
For sure. And just by standing up and shifting that energy will also be a really great thing from a mental health point of view.
And also in the workplace, we've got 6 sit-stand desks here. It's funny, the smokers often have the better time of it, because they go out and have a cigarette, and it gives them a chance to get up, walk around and everything else. And the reality is, cigarette's the worst thing they could be doing.
Absolutely.
But the best thing they could be doing is getting up and walking outside.
Definitely.
Every time they're feeling a bit.
Is so important.
Anyway, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. And we have to dive into some more stuff with you, I think, in the future.
Right.
So that's a wrap on episode 4 of the Joya Life podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, please like and subscribe, and take the scorecard for yourself. Figure out, when we're talking about the different areas of the wheel, the different areas of your life that we bring into balance, that Audrey articulated so well, get your scorecard, know where you sit, and then we can look at helping you improve over the long run with better goal setting.